reluctantly opened up and is looking good, and the range is green for launch. As a reminder, if we don't launch today, we do have that backup opportunity tomorrow, pending range acceptance at 7:19 p.m. Eastern local time. And with just under 3 minutes to go before launch, let's listen in to the final countdown prior to liftoff. All right, our 9 Merlin engines on the first stage are chilled. They're ready for flight. The LOX loading will complete on that second stage in just a few seconds. Once that occurs, you'll start seeing more of this white clouds venting.
Stage 2 LOX closed out.
And as our LOX is fully loaded and it's topped off, you'll start seeing this condensation, these clouds form more and more right up until liftoff.
Falcon 9's in startup.
All right, we have entered startup mode. Falcon 9 has taken over the remainder of the countdown. We're just waiting for the go for launch callouts.
Stage 2, press for flight.
LD, go for launch.
T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 15 seconds.
Falcon 9 is in flight.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. And liftoff of Falcon's first East Coast polar launch, Hola, Argentina.
Stage 1 course nominal.
We're now 40 seconds in the flight. Falcon 9 has taken off. It's cleared the tower, and we're currently throttling down to prepare for maximum Q. That's the point of maximum aerodynamic pressure. It's at 1 minute, 12 seconds.
Vehicle is supersonic. Vehicle has reached maximum aerodynamic pressure.
You've heard it. We've reached max Q. At this point, the loads in the vehicle become less and less as the atmosphere gets thinner. We're now able to throttle those Merlin engines back up. And at its maximum power, like right now, the vehicle consumes more than 700 gallons of fuel per second. All is looking good with our first stage's trajectory. The next couple events, there are 5 events, one after another. First, our main engine cuts off on our first stage. The stages will separate. Our first stage will then flip around to begin its landing attempt. The second stage's Merlin vacuum engine will ignite for second engine start 1. The first stage's boost back burn will start. It's one of 3 burns to help us land. They occur one after another in about 15 seconds. And this is that first polar orbit. If the clouds, you can see through the clouds here, you'll see some unique views that you haven't seen from Falcon 9 over Florida.
And we have Miko.
Stage separation confirmed.
And ignition.
All right, all of those events happen successfully one after another. This boost back burn, it'll last about 40 seconds. And so you see it on the left-hand side of the screen. On the right-hand side, you will see our second stage carrying those 3 satellites to orbit. And coming up next in about 20 seconds, that boost back burn will end, and then we'll have our fairing deployment.
Stage 1 boost back shutdown.
All right, one of those first landing burn, the boost back burns has successfully ended. Our 2 fairing halves will now jettison to expose the satellites to space. And you see the first stage has already been a turnaround, and you can see the nitrogen from our attitude control system helping guide it back.
Fairing separation confirmed.
There you see our 2 fairing
Acquisition
halves
signal, Bermuda.
have jettisoned. You can even see them in the background there on our MVAC engine, and you can see them from land too. It'll take us some time to get those to come back down. We'll keep you posted on the update.
We are T plus 4 minutes and 13 seconds into flight. Everything is looking great for tonight's mission. On the right-hand side of your screen is a view of our second stage, specifically its Merlin vacuum engine. We also call it MVAC engine for short. It's currently in the first of its 2 first and only planned MVAC burn. The first burn should last for about another 4 minutes. On the left-hand side of your screen is a view of our first stage looking downward. It's continuing to fall back towards Earth. The next milestone for the first stage is its first stage entry burn. Falcon 9 needs to execute an entry burn to slow itself down before hitting the dense parts of the atmosphere. Without this second burn, relying on the atmosphere alone to slow Falcon 9 down would put unnecessary strain on the rocket. That entry burn is coming up at T plus 6 minutes and 10
Second
seconds.
stage is following nominal trajectory.
Acquisition of signal, South Texas.
You may have also noticed that we've deployed our 4 hypersonic grip fins. Those are the honeycomb-like structures that you see on the left-hand side of your screen. They help to guide the first stage back during descent by moving the center of pressure on the vehicle. Again, those bursts of gas are nitrogen. It's absolutely normal, and those help to orient the rocket during its descent back towards Earth. And we're about 20 seconds away from our second burn, the entry burn.
Stage 2 FTS has safed.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
And 3 Merlin engines have relit and are currently slowing the first stage down before it hits those dense parts of the atmosphere. Second stage on the right-hand side of your screen is continuing to perform as expected.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
And that is our second burn completed. And as we mentioned earlier, we are going to be attempting to recover this booster back at land on landing zone 1. The first stage has one more burn
FTS
left.
is saved.
That is the landing burn. It begins just before we
Second
touch
stage
down
still
and
following
provides the
nominal
booster with
trajectory.
a soft descent before we land. During this period, the landing legs will also be deploying. You might be able to catch it right before we touch down. They're stowed at the base of the vehicle and made up of state-of-the-art carbon fiber and aluminum honeycomb.
Stage 1 transonic.
You can see the Cape getting closer and closer. What a cool view. The first stage is passing through the cloud layers right now.
Stage 1 landing burn startup.
And here comes Falcon 9 attempting its 4th landing.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
And you could not ask
Stage
for
1
a
landing
better
burn.
landing than that. Falcon 9 has landed once again. That is number 4 for this first stage booster and the 58th overall of an orbital class rocket. What a way to start off tonight's mission. The second stage and our primary mission are still continuing and remain healthy. The next milestone for the second stage is second engine cutoff 1, also known as SECO 1, and that is coming up at T plus 10 minutes and 5 seconds. During second engine cutoff 1, we'll be shutting down the second stage's MVAC engine. And as we approach this period, we'll be listening very closely for 2 callouts: verification of SECO 1 and then confirmation of a good orbital insertion. Both are going to be critical to ensuring that we deliver all 3 payloads to their intended orbits tonight. And while we're waiting for that period, some fun facts. The engine you see on screen can produce over 200,000 pounds of thrust. The second stage is
Started
currently
tunnel
traveling at
rounds.
over 20,000 kilometers an hour. At those speeds, you could travel from Los Angeles to New York in just 12 minutes. Very, very fast. We're about 20 seconds away from second engine cutoff 1.
And we have SECO.
And the second stage Merlin vacuum engine has successfully had SECO 1.
Nominal orbit insertion.
And that is the other call out we were waiting to hear on, a good orbital insertion. In just about 3 minutes, we will have the first of our 3 deployments. Until then, we are going to take a short break and be back around the T plus 13-minute mark for the deployment of the SAOCOM 1B satellite.
Also signal Bermuda as expected. acquisition of signal, Peru.
Well, welcome back from our mini coast phase. For those of you just joining us, we successfully launched our Falcon 9 rocket from Cape Canaveral on a polar orbit trajectory. We had a successful stage separation, a successful land landing, the fourth landing for this booster, and we're waiting the deployment of the SAOCOM 1B satellite. It's just about 10 seconds, 15 seconds away. It's the second and final satellite in this constellation. We first launched its sister satellite, SAOCOM 1A, in the fall of 2018.
SAOCOM separation confirmed.
All right, you've seen it, we heard it. Successful deployment of that SAOCOM 1B satellite. And as a reminder, this satellite and SAOCOM 1A's satellite's goal is to gather soil moisture. It helps increase the productivity and competitiveness of the agriculture sector. It helps us generate risk maps that can help control crop disease. It helps implement better fertilizer systems and provide early flood warnings. These two SAOCOM satellites work together with Italy's Cosmos SkyMed constellation, and they work together by providing up to 225 Earth images per day. But we still do have two satellites left to deploy. We're going to go into another coast phase. This one will last about 45 minutes. We're going to take a break, but we're leaving you with an animation that shows where we are in that coast phase. We'll be back at about T+1 hour for the deployment of the Tyvak 0172 and GNOMES 1 rideshare satellites. We'll see you then.
Countdown net, spacecraft team reports good solar array deploy.
Also signal Peru expected. Acquisition signal reef.
Welcome back to the webcast of the SAOCOM 1B mission. If you're just joining us, we're wrapping up our coast phase and close to the end of today's mission, which launched this evening at 7:18 p.m. Eastern. We then had successful lighting and shutdown of our second stage Merlin vacuum engine, then a successful deployment of the SAOCOM 1B satellite for Argentina's National Space Program. Coming up, we have the deployment of our two rideshare satellites. First up is the GNOMES 1 satellite for Planet IQ that occurs at T plus 1 hour, 1 minute, and 37 seconds, followed shortly after by the Tyvak 0172 satellite. For the GNOMES 1 satellite, due to the placement of our cameras, it's not likely that we'll have visual confirmation of the GNOMES 1 deployment, so we'll be listening in on the communication channels for that. And a little bit more about Planet IQ. They design, build, launch, and operate one of the most advanced constellation of radio occultation weather forecasting satellites. Radio occultation is a technology that measures and analyzes the signals generated by GPS satellites to determine weather data such as pressure, temperature, and water vapor. This data is used in weather forecast models to greatly improve the accuracy and extend the range of weather predictions. And here's a fun fact about Planet IQ's microsatellite. It's about the size of a carry-on bag, weighing about 39 kilograms or 86 pounds. We're a few seconds out from the GNOMES 1 payload deploy.
Planet IQ separation confirmed.
And we did get confirmation that the GNOMES 1 satellite did successfully separate. We're now waiting on our final deployment today, and that is of the Tyvak 0172 satellite. And for this one, we should be able to see the deployment. We're just about 15 to 20 seconds out.
Tyvak separation confirmed.
And we did get confirmation of the Tyvak 0172 satellite separation. That is our last payload for tonight. It's been an exciting evening. We saw a successful liftoff from our Cape Canaveral Air Force Station launch pad at 7:18 p.m. Eastern, the first polar orbit launch for SpaceX at the Cape, and the first originating from Florida in decades. From there, a successful stage separation, a land landing of our first stage back at Landing Zone 1, which marks, and this is a small correction, the 59th landing of an orbital class rocket, not the 58th. And finally, the deployment of the SAOCOM 1B satellite for the Argentinian Space Agency, along with our 2 rideshare customers. With that said, we will be bringing our webcast to an end.
But before we go, we'd like to thank our customer CONAE for tonight's mission and their great support, as well as rideshare customer Planet IQ. We'd also like to thank the United States Air Force for range support, as well as the Federal Aviation Administration for the licensing of today's mission. Please continue to follow us on SpaceX.com for future missions and milestones, as well as our Twitter and Instagram profiles. And if you're as excited by what you've seen tonight as we are, and you want to join our team, please visit SpaceX.com/careers to learn more about working with us at SpaceX. And finally, thank you to you, all of our viewers, for your support and for tuning in. We hope you have a great night.